To begin with the session, I would like to introduce you to the speaker of our session today. It's Mr. Tulsi Tanti. Mr. Tanti is the founder and the chairman and the managing director of the Suzlon Group. He has been the driving force behind the Suzlon's growth since its establishment in 1995. Mr. Tulsi Tanti's vision and strategic insight has transformed Suzlon and made it a global powerhouse in the energy sector. A world-renowned expert on renewable energy, Mr. Tanti believes in creating sustainable businesses and a sustainable world through energy and security. We are grateful, sir, to have you as a speaker today, and we are looking forward to a very insightful talk. Over to you, over to Dharni, ma'am, who will continue with the introduction and the session.
Thank you so much, Anmol. On behalf of the Suzlon Group, thank you everybody for joining this session. It's a pleasure always for us to come back and talk to our budding professionals who are going to join us in the future. Mr. Tanti himself is very, very passionate about going back and talking especially to technology and engineering students. As Anmol has already told you, Mr. Tanti is the chairman and managing director of Suzlon, which is the company which pretty much established the wind revolution in India. But he's also the chairman of the CII Renewable Energy Council. Now, as we all know, CII is a national level body, and this allows for Mr. Tanti to serve the nation by spearheading the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision in the renewable energy manufacturing space. So that's his mission on which he is working in the Renewable Energy Council at the CII. He dreams of a completely Atmanirbhar India, which is powered 100% by sustainable green energy. He is also the chairman of the Indian Wind Turbine Manufacturers Association. This is the body of all the wind turbine manufacturers that exist in India, whether they're Indian or foreign in origin, but are operating in India. And they work collectively, and Mr. Tanti is heading them to spearhead all kinds of policy and sector transformation initiatives within the country. Mr. Tanti has actually been, his efforts have been recognized worldwide. He has won so many accolades and awards. It's difficult to put them on a slide or even multiples of slides. But I would just like to briefly touch upon the key awards that he has been conferred with, mainly starting with the Champion of the Earth, which is very, very close to his heart and to the heart of Suzlon, because it's an award which was given by the United Nations Environment Program. Mr. Tanti's number one mission was not to set up a business, but was to set up a value proposition which will change the world for better for our next generation. So this award is special. He was also named as the hero of the environment by the Time magazine. He was put on the cover of the Time magazine. He was a global hero of the environment. This was basically for his contribution for raising awareness across the globe on climate change, right? When the world wasn't even thinking of climate change, he was talking about it. He was also the Entrepreneur of the Year as early as 2006, given by Ernst & Young. He was also called or awarded with the Global World Wind Energy Award by a Wind Energy Association, so one of the most profound and emphatic leaders across the globe. Of course, media has also been kind. We've gotten the CNBC TV18 Indian Business Leader Award. He has also been featured by the China Energy News as the Global New Energy Business Leader Award, which is also very special to us since it's come from China as another big player in the renewable energy space. It's a pleasure to have him talk to you today. And this is his agenda, which he will discuss with you. So I would like to invite him quickly to the mic. Mr. Tanti, good evening, sir. Can you please take over from here, Tulsi bhai?
Thank you, Dharni, and very good evening, friends. I am very happy to address you, all of you. By profession, I am also a mechanical engineer and also Bachelor of Commerce. So I always love to talk with our next generation of the talent, which is a future of our nations. So thank you joining and participating this evening with me. So today I will just share with you and touch base you about the Suzlon, about the renewable energy sectors domestically and globally, how it is taking shape, and what are the importance and priorities are increasing. And last, I will share with you how it should be important for you going forward in your future career or growth and plan and everything, how it can add value to your missions. So that will be there. The Suzlon, we have completed just 25 years, so it's a young organization, and it's India's one of the largest renewable energy company. Also, its operating is more than the 18 country. As the headquarter is in the Pune, One Earth, which is the one of the greenest campus on the world, which is the institute's called Washington DC Lead Institute has certified highest rated in the world. You would be surprised 3-4 years before the Google campus in California was the number one. In the last 3 years, the Suzlon campus in India is the number one in the world. So it's a great pride for the India and the Suzlon team, because it's a good prestigious the locations in the Pune, which is a One Earth, because its whole campus is self-sustainable, and and that is why its name is Earth. So within Earth, One Earth. That's the thing is there. The 25 years of journey is a quite long, and it's really challenging times. Every 4-5 years we have a turbulence environment in the market. If I share with you 1995 when I have started, it was very difficult times in the country. People was not understanding what is a renewable, what is a wind energy, why we should invest. Bankers was not comfortable. Government system policy was not established. Supply chain was not there. Talent was not available. So it's a very complex situations we have to manage. So what we have done is the first things. We have trained the talent from India. We have sent to the different part, particular Germany, Netherlands, Denmark, because there our R&D centers are there. So we have trained our the talent. So we have transferred the technology, not paper or digitally to India. We have transferred the technology through the people, and they come back in India and they have started the business. You will be surprised how many people we have taken. When we acquired the one of the company in Netherlands, it's called Rotorblade Aerodynamic Technology. So I have transferred from here 200 people. They are living 6 months. We have purchased one hotel in the Netherlands, and they have taken full training in the technology and workshops and everything. And after 6 months, the 200 the team has come back to the India, and they have started the production facilities in India. The same when we have started in Coimbatore gearbox manufacture, which was the one of the largest gearbox manufacturing capacity in the country in Coimbatore. The same protocol we have followed. 60 people we have transferred to the Belgium. Again, we have purchased small hotels, and 6 months people was living there along with the cook and everything. And we have trained the people, and they have come back. So by this way, truly, the transfer the technology in India. And today, when we see the 18 gigawatt, means 18,000 megawatt in so many countries is established in a different part of world. It was more than 25,000 megawatt. One of our German subsidiary, we have sold out 5-6 years before. That's why actual installation is today is 18, but otherwise it was more than 25,000 megawatt we have built in more than 35 countries. So team has done really great jobs. Means every countries, the Indian flag is there. So whole 100% product manufactured India and exported to the other part of world. One example, when we have gone in 2003 in the US, the people was not believing how technology can come from India, such a giant machines and everything. Technology can come from only Germany. So it is very difficult to convince them and digest by them in how to believe in that India can able to produce such a high-tech technology in 2003. And that was the challenge we have managed in the international markets to position the country and technology. So if I see how the group is taking the shapes, it's more than 5,000 at one time. It all 20,000 employees was working in the group. More than 1,800 customers. The 12,000 number of wind turbines are installed and commissions. Just to give you the size and example of that, one wind turbine is required to mobilize the material. It's almost 100 trucks are required. Then you can build the one wind turbines. So 12,100 turbines in 35 countries. So it's a big task and big challenge and complexity managed by the Suzlon teams. And we are proud, we are number one, and more than 35% capacities of country is built by the Suzlon. So if I convert, what are the real impact by building this large capacity? What is we are contributing for the society, for the environment, for our next generations? So it's a very clear case. Suppose 3 billion tree absorb the carbon dioxide. That much carbon dioxide savings our wind turbine is doing on a year. So it's a lot contribution for the mitigating the climate, the risk. Same way, the more than 10 million households get the energy out of these productions. So it is a good, sustainable long-term energy. It's a big contribution to the society and for the economy, India and abroad. What was the USP of the Suzlon? The why Suzlon is good, successful, and achieved a certain milestone. When we started in 1995, at that time in India, the image about the wind turbines and other things was very negative. Nobody's interested to invest by the wind turbine. And we have done the deep analysis, market intelligence study and everything. And we realized that there is a business model is important, not just the technology. No doubt best-in-class technology is required. So what should be done? So it's called end-to-end solution provider. So we have come out with the business model to acquire the sites, manufacture the product, and do the installation, erections, commissioning, and then life cycle cost management of 25 years. The Suzlon is the only company in the country or world, we can say, it's providing a total solutions. And because of that, we have positioned ourselves, because during construction period of the 2 years of the projects, lots of risk and uncertainty, customer feel uncomfortable, which we are taking. And because of that, it is giving a good piece to the financial investor to invest with us. And that is the success of the company. We have a more than 14 locations in our countries, different, most of the every states, our production facilities, they're not in just one state. And 6,000 megawatt production capacity. Here also, it's a fully vertical integrations. Again, second business model was there. Means each and every components we manufactured in-house, whether it is a generator, gearbox, rotor blades, transformers, panels, the turbines, even forging, even castings, everything. So that it's give our full control of the ecosystem and supply chain. Not only that, it is talks the technology each other very well, bring the reliable product. That was our key strategy. The world is looking for outsource model where we are looking in-house insourcing. Based on even Harden and Stanford has done the case study on the Suzlon, and even today also some of the students are learning why this is a strategy is important in-house for these types of the product and technology. So these are the two main pillars of the success. One is fully vertical integration, and another is end-to-end solution, the provider. The future about the renewables, if we talk, it's enormous. I can say after 25 years, because we have started 1995, nobody is looking and interested in renewables. Today, any person in the worldwide is, after pandemic even, it has increased the number one and topmost priority for renewables. Because the world has realized a future, if we want to bring a sustainability for the economy and for the planet and everything, I think renewable is must required. When we are talking the energy source, because that is our lifeline of the day-to-day life and also even business, also the economy, the conventional and non-conventional energy. So the non-conventional is the bioenergy, solar, wind, tidal. All this energy is taking the position stronger and stronger. Not only that, it's a very cost competitive. Compared to any conventional source, today all renewable energy sources are cheaper. And that is the momentum has changed in the marketplace. If you ask me, by 2050, all the conventional energy source will become zero. Nobody will use in the world the conventional energy by 2050, and that is the world is going on that direction. So it's very, very clear. If you see the globally, what is the renewable energy portfolio is there, The mix is like that, almost 41% is a hydropower. Is available. Solar is there, 25, wind is there. And then solid biofuel and mix hydro plants and other things, small percentage. So it's a good mix is growing, but this solar and wind is expanding very fast. So percentage wise, slowly, hydro will reduce proportionately, but absolute will not change. So this will be there. If you see what is the distribution between wind and solar capacity in the world, almost 700 plus gigawatt is wind and same 700 plus gigawatt is a solar. So both are now balancedly growing, equal situations worldwide, and it is a good momentum is there. Another things you can observe in 2020, well, whole world is passing through the COVID and the lockdown and other things, but still the graph is going up. Means in the COVID period also, this is the only sector in the worldwide has done almost 35% growth, which is unbelievable situations. Because A, one side is the COVID, B, lockdown, supply chain was disturbed and everything, but still installation has happened. So that is a great momentum and growth. All other sector has not done much progress or maybe some downgrade progress, but renewable has grown very, very well. So when we say why renewable energy is required, so most important threat or biggest risk after COVID in the world is there, it's a climate change, climate risk. And that is affecting our life also, that is affecting our economy also, that is affecting our environment also. So it's a big impact. And if you see the 1950, when industrialization has started, the natural calamity was in the year was something 3 to 4. Some natural impact on the world was there. Now today, if you ask me, it's more than 400 to 500 natural calamitic impact is coming. Somewhere you are saying the fire is going, cyclone is there, the flood is there. Every types of the weather environment disturbance is coming in the earth. It is just because of the climate change, and it's losing so many lives, and 2% global GDP is going down because of that. And here it is a sustainable energy will bring the low carbon economy. It's create enormous long-term sustainable jobs. Not only that, it give a big benefit to the MSME sectors and manufacturing, because it's a low cost of energy. So it is a economically viable solutions and make a sustain even for farming and agriculture point of view. In short, it is a bringing energy securities. If you talk a country like us, we are importing huge oil and coal and everything because we don't have a sufficient resources to energize our nation. So we are heavily depend on external resource. In that situations, the renewable energy is bringing energy securities. I think that is the most important part for any nations, because then you are not depend on anybody else. And to make that happens, the securities and priorities are then. Because if you see whenever the oil price goes up, our current account deficit goes down, inflation will increase, financial cost will go up, and economic pressures will start, and our GDP goes down. This is a direct relation so many years we have observed because of oil. For us to bring a sustainable long-term economy of our nation and create a long-term sustainable jobs, we have to avoid the import of the oil by 2050. And we have to replace those energy through the renewable energy source. And that is the great opportunity we have to leverage going forward. And that's why I see the last 25 years, renewable energy it's a technology and learning and everything. But now this sector is in the industrialization phase and large scale basis. So it's a great and enormous opportunity for our next generation of engineers and managers to work in this field, because this is the future of the country, to bring the stability. Because it's not just you are contributing your time and effort and resource, but you are really creating an impact for the society and giving a better life to our children. So it's a good win-win situations going forward. Apart from the 2019 in these situations, the UN has taken after that, it's a climate emergency. This is the areas because of that, renewable energy has taken a big momentum, and the number one sector growth in the world today is a renewable sector. You've seen in 2020, none of the sector was growing even. Growth was not there, where renewable was growing 30%. So this shows the priorities and importance, how it is valuable in our life. And that's why UN also emphasized, and any part of the nation has taken the priorities. And more than 120 countries has signed the agreement with the UN to zero emissions by 2050. And that is the missions for the whole world to go and mitigate the climate risk by 2050. Because 1950 industrialization started, at that time the world was really peaceful and the weather was nice, everything was excellent. Fruit, vegetable quality, air qualities, water quality, everything was excellent. But now again, we have to bring back that same quality by 2050. And that is our responsibility to work on that directions. If you see the 2020, which I have mentioned is there, 260 gigawatt, it's a huge installation has happened in just 1 year. It's a really good thing is there. And it is beating the previous record by almost 50%. 2019 versus 2020, it is going very high, irrespective of the COVID. So it shows very clear that now momentum is there, and this momentum will continue for the next 20 to 30 years. So coming to the India, what is our situations in FY20 means 2020, India has done 12 gigawatts. So it's really good in the COVID time also. So it's not weak. Our total energy, the baskets are currently on a conventional energy is a 230 gigawatt installed capacity is there. Now against that, how much renewable has come out? So it's a 94. So it's almost, we can say 1/3 country's capacity is now the renewables. Very fast we are moving towards the 50% areas, means 230 gigawatt we will achieve. But again 230, some of the capacity will be shut down. Those plants are more than 25 to 30 years. The country has to shut down those plants. Now where India is standing for the renewable, so we are fully committed, and we can say the responsible global citizens and taking care of the environment, because world is looking us continuously. India has a 1.3 billion populations, and if they consume more CO2 and create a more carbons in the atmosphere, then world will be unsafe. But no, we are responsible and we are managing, and our carbon footprint is the quite lowest in the world. But, we are not in top 10 also, so it is a good in carbon footprint. But we are number 4 in renewable energy development. The highest is China, second is US, because these are the two large GDP economy. Third is Brazil. But Brazil, we can overtake very fast now. So it's not too far. Maybe next year, we will be the third largest the economy in the renewable space in the world. The future is very clear. There is no doubt. And more and more new energy technologies for renewable is emerging, and that will help going forward very well. So renewable capacity adds by 2020 by 45% in 2020 of 280 gigawatt, which is a very high installed capacity in the world has happened. Going forward means new capacity will come out almost 80-90%, means hardly 10% new capacity will come on a conventional, 80-90% will come. So it's now the real full control is non-conventional energy. So it's no more alternate energy, it's a mainstream energy has become the positions in the global energy baskets. How much investment is flowing in this area? In just in 1 year, it's a $500 billion investment has come in 2020. It's a very big size of industries. It's not the small sector, and it's continuously growing by 10% year on year, or more than that. So its momentum will continue, and lot investment will flow. And we are so fortunate in country, the India is also getting a continuous the investment from the other part of the world. because 70 to 80% investment in the country is coming from the overseas and 20% domestic. The investor is investing. So lot and investment is flowing in this the field. Growth of renewable energy in India. What is the priority for our nation set by our prime ministers? It's a very clear by 2022 to 175 gigawatt we have to achieve, which we will cross very fast on this direction. Today is a 95 almost is there, or we can say just we are touching 100 in currently. So 175 by 2020, and the 225 is by 225 again. Target has revised from 175 to 225 to 2020, and 450 gigawatt by 2030. The total our energy consumptions, all source of energy today, we are consuming hardly 250 gigawatt. Against that, we are planning 450 gigawatt by 2030, because our energy requirement is increasing year on year by 12 to 14%. And to satisfy that also, and to replace the conventional energy. So by this way, we will become a more and more self-sustainable. So 55% by 2030 will come. And our target is 40%, but we will exceed that. There is no doubt about thing. FDI investment is almost more than 10 billion is coming year on year, and it will continue this momentum, because this is the one of the sectors which is attracting the highest investment from overseas after the capital market. So we moving in a right perspectives, and the priorities of the nations is very good. It's not just the green energy, but also the plan of the nation is the green cities infrastructure also. And you will be surprised very fast, the green fuel will come very fast. Means from renewable energy, the new fuel will be developed so that all our vehicles we can run on hydrogen. So that is the next future is coming. So more capacity we will add, not just to produce the power from wind and solar, but it will be utilized for the hydrogen. So all our trucks, railways, our ships, our aircrafts will start running on a hydrogen. So that will be the next green fuel. And again, it is a strong energy security for our nations. So India has a potentiality and opportunity is enormous. There is no doubt about the things, because sites are other things. Another thing is being Atmanirbhar initiatives of the nations and lead by National Council Committee by CII. We are very much attracting so much investment in the country. So number of factories and number of plants are coming to the India, not just for the domestic demand to satisfy, but they are coming here because they realize the excellent talents are available in the country, low cost of the energy, good infrastructure, and low cost of the land building infrastructure compared to other nations. So they want to establish the complete comprehensive supply chain in the country for the global market. So there is a priority and opportunities we are exploring to make India as a global manufacturing hub for the renewable space. It's not just we contribute by producing some green energy, but we can provide the next worldwide the manufacturing opportunity so that we can bring the world capacity faster and to mitigate the climate risk before 2050. So India is a strategic role contributing in these directions, and our Prime Minister is leading the Solar Alliance between 140 countries, and they are driving to make the 142 country also more and more renewables. So that is a good contribution for the global society by India. So green energy and opportunity and possibilities, it's great. So if you see all the technologies which is in this segments, how much jobs are available today? There's more than 12 million jobs are already there. Out of 2 million jobs are in our country. But this rate is increasing almost every year by 30%. And this very fast, it will go to the 30 million jobs will be established by 2030, because there is a great opportunity, and India is a well strategic positions for the global market, not for just productions, but R&D, service, IT service providing, because whatever asset is running other part of the world, we have to manage 24-hour cycle times and SCADA systems and all the digital technology used, where India is quite well advanced and equipped. So the technology, manufacturing and service, all these areas, the enormous new jobs requirement, not just domestic market, but global market. So many MNC has started establishing manufacturing base in the country, and that will help us for our talent to get the opportunity to work in this field by good knowledge, but same time contributing for the society for the betterment. So renewable energy, where the growth technology and higher is going, because this 12 million jobs is moving to 30 million jobs. So it's almost 3 times it will added. That is a good things. And majority the application is coming in the Asian market for the installation and capacity, because 1.3 billion we are and 1.6 billion is China. So there is a need of energy and other things are increasing. Another biggest beauty is there, this sector is giving a good opportunity for the girls and women to work in this field, because there is a huge space is available for their skilled utilizations. And that is the biggest the benefit we see the going forward. Almost 50-50 will be the men and women will contribute to build the renewable sector, from technology, for manufacturing, for service, for installation, erections, energy management, distribution, transmission, generations, all field area. The huge transformation will come by the digital technology. So there is another segments are emerging very fast in power sector, because if you see the other gadgets and other things, lots of transformation happens, but power sector is quite behind. So now that digital power sector will emerge in next 20 years. So it's a good the time to work in a renewable space. So I really appreciate everybody's time and patience to listening us. So now I'm very much happy to listen to you and what is in your mind and what you are looking, and how I can guide or supports to on this the emerging sectors. So that is very important.
Yes, thank you, sir. That talk was quite insightful. And there are a lot of people who have been pouring in questions that they have in mind. So I'll just, one by one, put them forward in front of you. The first question says, how is Suzlon placed for the next 10 years as a manufacturer in the renewable space? And in continuation, there was this question: what is your current business plan on, selling or leasing turbines?
No, our business model is very clear. We are not buying the wind turbine. We are not leasing the wind turbine. We built the projects for the customers. So we identified the locations, we developed the technology, our R&D center, Germany, Netherlands, Denmark, our manufacturing base in India. So we provide a turnkey solution to customer. And once the project is commissioned, it will be handed over to the customer. And we manage those assets for the next 25 years. And customer sells the power to the utility company, and they make a fortune out of this investment. And as far as the future, the plan is very clear. We have passed through lots of turbulence, uncertainty, and financial difficulties because of the global market impact and the transitions for the Indian market from feed-in tariff market to the bidding market. So that has affected the huge market uncertainty and everything. Now we are again back to the business and doing very, very well. So next 10 years, Indian market will go very high repeat growth, and we will remain market leadership in this segment. And we will try to build as much as capacity. Our current priority is a domestic market. We are not looking at this moment international market, because domestic demand is too high. So we have to satisfy and we have to build as much as capacity. The priority is number 1 is wind. Number 2 is wind, solar, hybrid capacity we will add. Number 3 going forward, because the need of the country on hydrogen side is there. So it will be integrated the project. And to bring the next generation, recently we have introduced 3 megawatt machines. which is a very large turbine and a very large rotor diameter, and tower heights are very high, so that we can increase the energy production more and reduce the cost of energy down.
Right. So very similar, like in accordance to the answer that you gave, there was this another question which says, how good are Indian companies doing in comparison with the foreign companies or the MNCs in the renewable sectors like solar or wind? And specifically mentioning about the investments in the Indian renewable sector. So how good are we faring in that?
First of all, within the renewable space, very few Indian companies currently is there. But in solar now, more companies are emerging, and we see the good potentiality in the solar. In wind, hardly one or two companies is working. But we are competing, not only just India. We are selling our product and technology in Germany, US, Europe. Even you will be surprised, we have built the production capacity in China, and we have sold the wind turbine in China. And the best part is the Chinese companies' market share in wind turbine business in India is not more than 1%. So they are not competing in India. So that is the competitive edge we have developed. And this is purely because of Suzlon, of the unique business model. We have bring down very high cost competitive, but same time, high reliability, the German technology product and Indian price.
Right. So a very similar question in terms of the question that we're taking. What will be the future of the technology specific tenders, and what are the key challenges in the renewable growth that all the companies in the renewable sector might face in 2021? Could be challenges like land acquisition, then grid availability. Could you comment something on that?
No, because of the high priority from the Prime Minister office to all the requirements in the state governments and the power ministries are working very, very aggressive and positively. And there is lots of lands and infrastructures are available. The country has already done the mapping up to 2030, how much capacity we have to build. Accordingly, the green corridors has the development infrastructure. The investment is going on a grid set capacity and everything. But sometimes some area, it will remain mismatched for the 6 months, 9 months or 1 year. But end of the 1 year, it will be matched. So by that way, it will continue. So we see the Indian market will continue to grow by at least 20 to 25% year on year.
Right. So there's this interesting question that has come up. Will the focus of the energy transition moves from renewables to other technologies, like as you mentioned about green energy, and there was this hydrogen energy was launched in 2021 itself, to generate hydrogen from green power sources. So would this be a competition to the renewable sector, or how do you see it?
No, it is a complementary, because hydrogen will be produced from the renewable energy. If I want to produce the electrolysis systems are there, and H2O means water will be split in oxygen and hydrogen. If you want to do, the huge energy is required, electricity, and that electricity will come from wind and solar. So it will unlock new market. So it is a very complementary, because currently we are producing energy and selling to the utility, and the utility is selling to the consumers and industries and farmers. But again, going forward, this renewable energy, we can utilize conversion of the fuel, and that fuel will go to the vehicles and railways and aircrafts and ships. So it will unlock the more demand and market. So it's not a competition, it will unlock the market.
Right. So one question here says, now that we're aiming towards zero emission, and like the climate change given to us we are aiming towards a no conventional energy source model. So there are going to be challenges, as in how are we going to completely shift towards renewable energy, and are renewable energy so reliable that we can neglect the seasonal impact that they have on energy generation?
No, there is the battery requirement will emerge going forward. Currently, the some erratic situations are there, because nature will work as per the nature pattern. Consumer is not working as per the nature. So either nature has to adjust accordingly the consumer, which is not possible, But why not we convince the consumer to act and consume the energy as per the nature cycle? And that is why the going forward is net metering, the digital metering systems and everything. And time zones pricing will come. So by digital applications in your house or in your office and everything, you will utilize the energy on a different times rather than in a continuous your requirement point of view, so that we can make as much as possible aligned with the nature cycle, so that it will give the benefit. Number one. Number two is some battery storage. Number three, when the hydrogen productions will come, it will be best storage indirectly. So that will be there. So whenever power need is there, we can feed the power to the grid. And when we don't require it in the systems, we can use to produce the hydrogen. So by that balancing things, or maybe pump storage, hydro, like we can use the storage in a hydro power combinations with renewables. So these types of even gas and the renewables combinations will start working. So there is a mix of the energy portfolio will bring the stability for the grid, and requirement of the consumer can be satisfied. So there is a good nature of the different technology will emerge to satisfy this requirement.
Right. So one last question on the technical side, maybe we can say. Here, the question says, could you shed light on the gap that has been there in India from a long time in the solar energy sector specifically, and the other renewable energy sectors, may it be wind. The graph that we saw that you showed in your presentation, it also showed that there was the increase in solar was quite higher when compared to wind, and that was at a very constant rate. So, like, why is it, and could there be anything to boost the other and renewable sectors?
No, first of all, the structurally and resource point of view, solar will be remain the double versus the wind. So wind is one, then solar will be two. Why? Because we have so many 28 our number of states, or 30 states, right? The solar can be possible all the states, means across the India, where wind potentiality and resources available only in the 9 states. Right? It cannot be possible across the India, where solar we can build any part of the country. So the geographic distribution point of view, 1/3 area is a wind and 2/3 area is a solar. So that's why 1:2, the ratio will go. And technical requirement also to energy mix, because the wind timing of the generation is different and solar timing difference is different. So to system stability and grid stability point of view, the 1:2 ratio is also equally technically required, so that we can satisfy the consumers' demand in a perfect way. So it is going very well. Currently, it's just 50-50, but tomorrow it will be 1/3, 2/3. The wind and solar ratio will go. Coming to the technology point of view, we are extremely behind in a solar technology. We don't have a manufacturing base much more, hardly 10 to 15% we are domestic manufacturing, and 80% we are importing. Where the wind is almost 90% is a domestic manufacturing. Not only that, we are exporting. So net our export is higher in a wind, and net in a solar, our import is too much. And that is why role of the Atmanirbhar Bharat is becoming more good initiatives. How we can encourage the domestic entrepreneurs and young generation to start up and other things to come in a value chain of the solars, because to produce the one project, it is so many number of parts and number of processes required and number of services required. So small company or MSME company can emerge in India faster, and they can take a grip of this solar supply chain next 5 years. I think it's a good opportunity, and then we can able to start exporting the solar technology from India to other part of the world, the way the solar export is happening. Coming to again technology, the higher and higher size wind turbine. Earlier it was 1 megawatt. Now it's coming 2 megawatts. Recently, India has introduced 3 megawatt. So going forward, it will be 4 and 5 megawatt machines will come. So it's a very big giant power plant. The solutions will emerge, because we have to transform our energy portfolio from conventional to renewable. So there is a good potentiality for technology development. And so many R&D centers are already established in the country also. And supply chain, almost 4,000 SME companies in this field is there. And 2 million jobs already in the country in a renewable space is there. So this sector is growing in a job almost 30% year-on-year requirement. So that is a good opportunity for next generation of our skill.
So, very similar question again as you answered. So, like something, one question that has come up is, what are the skills which are required in the future sector of renewable energy? Where, if someone is hoping to be a job applicant in the sector, what are the skills that they actually should have?
I think it's two segments are there. One is a managerial skilled area where to manage the business area, all the corporate functions like the legal, finance, HR, the certain corporate communications, all this, the management side area. But most important, high potentiality of the jobs are on R&D, where it's a mechanical, electrical, power electronics, any types of the technologies, because in the wind and solar, it's almost 7 to 9 technology. Aerodynamic technologies is a great future is there. Then the fuel technology is a chemical reactions, electrolysis process and everything, which is hydrogen is emerging is there. Even green ammonia will also emerge, means fertilizers we can produce from the wind energy and the solar energy converted into the process by chemical process into green ammonia. So in agriculture sector point of view, so any types of the technology expertise is a great, whether it is a R&D activities, whether it is a manufacturing, whether it is a manufacturing process, whether it is a supply chain development, huge logistic requirement. There also technology need is there. It's not a simple logistic, very specialized vehicles and management of the vehicles and tracking of the management. So there is so many types of the startup company I can see can able to emerge, not just the job, but we can provide the lots of small services to industries. And that is a great potentiality of startup company also can be done, because every engineers cannot be just a job, because 10% may become an entrepreneur. So there is a space for everybody. So that is the potentiality is a really the good. Plus IT segment, also equally important, because lots of digital technology and IT communications, controlling and monitoring of the systems, conditioning, monitoring the systems. So all these any types of the technology knowledge is there. It is useful in the renewable space. So it's not just only one specific technical expertise. Okay, if you are mechanical engineer, yes, electrical, power electronics, hydraulics expertise, aerodynamics, the fuel chemical chemistry technology, every areas, IT, digital.
Yeah. There was a very similar question regarding startups. One said, after the big guns have come up in the solar and the wind technology in India, are there space for startup? But then I guess you answered
almost I can see 10,000 SME company will emerge. 10,000. Today we don't have. So the 10,000 companies, small to medium size, when you start with the small activity, just to give you my background. So in 1995, I started this business. My father was farmer. So I'm not coming from the family business house or huge cash and capital with me and everything. So it was nothing there. I started with 1 lakh rupees, the capital, nothing else. And that was the journey has started. So initially, maybe we are small, but within 5 years, once we get the right business model and right expertise, and the most important, no shortcuts and good ethical and principles and values, we can work on a business. I think there is an endless growth and potential. I have no dream that tomorrow I can able to build the wind turbine in 35 countries in the world and give the so many jobs outside India. So it has happened now. It's a reality today. So we should dream large and it will be achievable.
Right. So yeah, there is this one question.
No shortcut. Number one, no shortcut. No unethical practice. Right? And and nothing to worry about the failure. Failure is the success.
Yes, sir. So there's this one question which asks, do you have any views on the new technologies that have emerged, something like the decentralization of the solar tech using blockchains and etc. And is Suzlon working on developing these kind of technology?
No, the decentralization of energy system, because what is the current our infrastructure is there based on consumer, based on generation, distribution, transmissions. It is a huge infrastructure investment and other thing, and that's why we are following that the same. But if there is a 10 villages there, and if the self-sustainable energy source is required, it's the decentralized infrastructure. So that will emerge. And now it has started in so many remote place areas. They are not connected with the national grid at all. They have their own generation, transmission, and distributions, just for the 1 village or 2 village or 5 village within that. So that is a decentralized system has started. The rooftop has giving a birth very well, so that at least you produce some your own energy and manage your energy requirement of the house and everything, and balance you can draw from the grids and other thing. So this transformation will continue because it's a high capital investment business. So it's look important, but it goes slow. So there is a change and will happen. But when you see the 2050, no conventional energy will use, no traditional the projects will be there of the power plants and other thing. All this will disappear. So there is a different nature. Even very large substation, what you are looking today, it will become a very compact 1/10, right? Because the semiconductor industry and digital technology is entering in the power sector, high voltage device and equipments and other things. So that is another segment of the market is emerging for the power sector in the semiconductor industries. Because we have transformed the lots of our electrical application gadgets less than 1200 volt. That equipment all digitalized. But more than 1200 volt equipments, we are not yet digitalized. Now the semiconductor is taking position in that field. So it will emerge. And India has an excellent talent in this field, whether it is semiconductor, whether it is renewables. I think we can able to do much more. And the government is also positive and aligned and making a good opportunity. So there is a good possibilities for the small to medium startup to start any small technology activities going forward in this field, because it's a tailwind. If you are doing something, you will get support because 30% growth is there. So it will not collapse anything.
So one last technical question that we'll take. It says, is there any scope in the mechanical industry as a business, on the basis of CNC or WMC production, VMC production?
No, it's all these equipments and other things. It's a huge mechanical equipments are there. And if you ask me, in a one wind turbine, it's more than 500, 600 tons steel is used. So there is a space for the CNC or any types of the specialized machining. Even new materials are emerging in the markets. So there is a great need of like in a semiconductor product will come in the power sector. It's called graphite and other things. So next generation of the machining and machine tools, that segment market is also good support is required in there, because so many steel parts are there. But in solar is less is there, but in wind turbine segment, it's very high. But once you go to the hydrogen, again, there is a lots of parts required for the machining and machine tools and some specialized materials requirements and everything. So it is a full ecosystems is there in renewable space.
So one concluding question. So what would be your concluding words of advice to the upcoming generation so as to strive towards a better future? And as you mentioned about all these opportunities in the energy sector, how big do you see this sector to be in the upcoming years when compared to the other sectors in an overall perspective?
I think India has the huge potentiality for 2-3 emerging sectors. There is a 2 opportunity. If I am in your positions, should I go to the traditional and conventional sector? There is a steel, there is a cement, Right? There is a textile, so many sectors are there in the country that will also transform. But should I go in that segment or should I go in the emerging segment? So which are the emerging segments of the nations? So I think number one is coming out is a renewable space, which is a wind, solar, battery storage, electrical vehicles, the green hydrogen, green ammonia. Going forward, one more steps will come. It's called desalination plant, because renewable energy will utilize huge energy is required to desalinize the water, make the potable water. So these are the value chain, right? Produce the renewable energy and then applications. So those application is not yet started in the country. Hydrogen, green ammonia, and desalination. These are the segments for the value chain of this. This is the number one industries of the future. Number two is the service industries. In this whole value chain, there is a digital and IT technology requirement. It's not just simple computer or the communication and 5G and other thing, but how to use those technology for the business process, manufacturing process, service management, asset management, all these area, it's a big requirement is there. Like SCADA monitoring, the sensing of the equipments, live forecasting, right? Value addition, value engineering. So a lot of things is a service industries. So that is small, medium, large companies can emerge and support the sectors. So that is a second emerging sector. The third is a semiconductor industries. So that is a big space is there. Today, this industries is more than $100 billion, the market, and that will by 2030, it will be more than $1 trillion size market in the world, where India is just less than 1%, less than 1%. So, and talent and expertise we have. When I see the worldwide, the semiconductor industries, lots of Indians are already there. Lots of professors in the world universities, they're specialists in semiconductor industries. But in India, we don't doing that business. We still focusing on a traditional and conventional segment. So this the semiconductor industries will emerge. The biofuel and biotechnology areas will be the emerging, the field will come in the Indian markets. So that is a very strong. Another very strong pillar of the country is a pharma. But pharma is not just the medical side, but pharma need a lot of technology to produce those product. So the background of the production unit, expertise of the pharma plant, machinery and technology development. Because when you come the plant and machinery, 90% plant and machinery for any business we are importing. We are not manufacturing plant and machineries in the country. Right? Some small lesson in other part of the world, they don't consume any plant and machinery, but they export a lot plant and machinery to India. So that is the segment will transform in India. Because there is no sense which business already so many Indians are doing, you cannot make money. Those business Indians are not doing today in India, we should do that business, then we make a money. Then we have a growth, then we have an upside, everything like this. Coming to the individual point of view, number one, whatever we decide, let's focus one. Which segment, which area, which direction we go, not to do flip-flop. But after 1 year, we realize, oh, I'm not enjoying. It's not a business, it's for the just enjoyment. It's a patience, right? It can be enjoyment, it cannot be enjoyment, but not to miss the track. Continuously, consistency, for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, you will get a great success. So number one. Number two, already I mentioned, no shortcuts. High ethical values and principles, values to try. Right? Respect the human resource and build a strong team. Don't go alone. You will not success. You need your colleagues, but they should be equal with you. You cannot be a boss. So that way you can bring the talent in your systems and make a team and fight for all the odds and uncertainties. Fourth, do the business, but keeping in mind what I'm contributing for the societies. Just I am becoming healthy or my society is becoming also healthy. So that is the important. And the last point, health and safety should be the top priority in any venture or any things. We should not do business at the cost of the life of people. So that is the area I think we can make. It's a very simple, but it's difficult to practice. We do, That is why 5% people are successful, 90% is not successful.
So yeah, that was quite insightful and some amazing answers. And I hope all the listeners enjoyed the session. And we'll also be uploading the session, the recording of the session on for those who might have missed out. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful session and your time. That was quite great interacting with you. Thanks a lot.
No, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Be safe and take care of you and your family. All the best. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, all the listeners. Thank you.
Bye.